I was pushed on here today to talk about the new earth. I am going to share exactly what the new earth is, not kind of what it is. There is a little bit of confusion for some, I think, and I was shown there's going to be a lot of changes, so I need to talk about this right now. What exactly is the new earth? We all have a heart. The heart is earth. The heart is earth. Then we have the higher heart. This is our thymus. This is our self-defense system, our immunity. This is the new earth. Both of these earths have a different mother. The self-defense system, these are the rainbow warriors, the rainbow children. These are the original tribes who descended onto earth and have risen into heaven. This earth is 3D, this earth is 5D. There are many others who were called into new earth. There are many others who were called into new earth who are not the original souls, but they all came. A lot of them are also not from here. Because this is also heaven and the promised land, and heaven is the stars, there's a reason why so many feel so connected to the stars, because that is home. The 3D earth grid, just like the higher heart, a lot of people do not know, I think, that we have two torus fields that work together. Our heart grid is all connected to earth. Everybody here that has a heart, and then some, the grid is connected to earth. These two grids are always working with one another, so everything is connected. One is not more important than the other. The earth also has a new sun, so it has a new timeline grid. The sun is what programs our heart and our grid and our destiny, especially when there are eclipses and timeline shifts, and we are approaching a very big timeline shift that is not an eclipse. We have a lot of other timeline shifts that are not eclipses, and I'm going to tell you also what happens when we get off of path, when these timeline shifts happen, when we make the wrong choice or the wrong decision and get on the wrong path. There is really no such thing as a wrong decision and a wrong path, but what I mean, and in this case by wrong, is it is not in the best interest of our destiny, of our heart, of our soul, and where we're going. So if we say that forward is the way, and we make a decision and get off of path, either we're already on that timeline or during one of these timeline shifts, so we're off path, we're here. Once that timeline shift happens or that eclipse happens, it's locked into place and you're now going from there. There's no going back. However, there's a little bit of an exception that I'm going to get into, but there was a time that I was on or at the wrong place at the wrong time. I had a job that I had to work or went to work out of state, and it wasn't the first time that I went out of state to work a job here, but I shouldn't have done it this time. Something felt wrong. That's oftentimes when we wind up off path, is when we ignore our intuition, when we don't know our worth or our value, or something happens outside of our control or a distraction. There's a lot of different reasons why we can get off path, those with a lot of trauma. So I was somewhere else during this one eclipse that this happened, and when I got back, I was on a series of very false timelines. Now, I have moved and switched jobs and seen people who are like the same people, but not them. This was different. I had people coming into my life, job opportunities coming into my life, but all of these people were like, they were distorted. They would look just like somebody that I knew, like identical, but a distorted version. They would even drive the same car. It was really weird. Eventually, yes, it got corrected. Speaking of correction, there are a lot of people right now, and who already have been, that are going to be called on this shift back into a timeline that a wrong decision was made, one where we got off path. I'm hearing a lot of, I feel like I'm where I was at in 2020 or 2017 or 2008, and some it may even be childhood, but in a much better place. Like, feel like this is similar, but I'm much better off now. And even if you're not technically in the physical world, as far as like in a better place financially or something like that, you're in a better place because you're wiser now. You have attained a lot of skills and knowledge now to make those decisions. And where anybody ends up, if you do wind up in something that's kind of familiar, it's not a punishment. This isn't a bad way. This is what is going to correct the path. So where we are headed will take us to our destiny. And now we know and can make the right decisions, but it's going to be very short-lived, if that makes sense. And I will add, I was also shown that people who did try to maliciously jump on a path or a destiny, they are also going to be corrected. In those cases, of course, it might be a little less favorable. Earth had its final cutoff shift point, and I want to say it was completely divided May 15th, 16th during this eclipse in 2022. That was when it was officially split, or the cutoff point. I knew that this was coming somewhat. I was being shown there's a punk song, Lagwagon, May 16th. I didn't know what it meant until after this eclipse, of course, that what this all meant. That was Earth's cutoff point. The root of the new sun, this began April 8th, 2024. Earth's new sun, new timeline came fully online during the election. And thereafter, it was kind of like the flower of life. The past and the future came together and was being formed to create these timelines. Every time there's an eclipse, how it affects each person does depend on their path. It always affects Earth's timeline. It's somewhat like the contract for the next 6 months is being written, in a sense. Certain things, again, how much it affects somebody depends on their path, where they're at, and what they need to know or experience. Sometimes people have no idea the eclipses are happening. Of course, I kept seeing so many times, I was seeing for years, I could write a book on the eclipses alone and what happens. It is so powerful, but I was seeing a lot of people saying, very conspiracy. This is what they're doing. They're opening this up. And every single time I saw that, it was during an eclipse. So if we are connected to the map, then it's a lot easier to tell what's going on, and it happens organically. A lot of these processes are incredibly organic. So many of these processes are incredibly organic, even when it feels weird, even when it feels strange. However, Earth's new sun, this new timeline, feels off, and I know it has been integrated, AI has been integrated into this new timeline. I would love to say that this was the path that Earth and the collective chose organically, but I don't believe that. And that's what happens when these timeline shifts happens. If enough of the collective, enough people are off path at a time of these big eclipses, again, they're not all created equal, then boof, the whole timeline has been boosted forward in that direction. The Rainbow Children, I made a video online that has this painting on it, and it talks about how you are able to move through all of your gifts and your role. It's really important that everybody does know their role and how much your role can change. One way that I knew I was getting back online or back on track to my right timeline is I was being called into things that I enjoyed as a child, and that is how many have already been being called back into for the last few years, and you are going to continue to be called back into your natural gifts and talents, things that you enjoyed as a child. A lot of the Rainbow Children and many more have had very difficult upbringings. So that means that they didn't have a childhood, were growing up raising other people. You are being called back into your natural gifts and talents. It is essential that you are in your purpose for Earth to receive your gifts and your help, because it is very easy when you were raised like that, and for many other reasons how we were all raised, is that it doesn't feel important, or resting, creating, doing art and feeling joy isn't doing something that you need done. No, it is important. It is so important that you are doing what you came here to do, for you to reach the people that you need to reach. You being in your purpose is helping Earth. Are naturally incredibly creative, highly imaginative, all have really, really good taste. This does not mean that others are less important or less gifted. Gifts, they are coming from the heart. That's how you know if somebody's gifted. Are you giving from the heart? Because all gifts come from the heart. Gifts are for giving. When you are giving from the heart, you have an endless supply, as opposed to somebody who's not. They are taking from the world, their ideas or anything else, the energy, taking from the outside, maybe for selfish purposes or any other reason, and trying to produce it from the outside in. Gifts are for giving. For giving. What's kind of funny about saying that is because gifts, in order to access and attain your gifts, requires forgiveness. You will find that those who truly forgive are more easily able to access their gifts. That is how you know if somebody is gifted, is because it is coming authentically and from the heart. And every single one also has absolutely the best sense of humor. So yeah, they're funny, playful. It is essential that you are in that state of being, because since the new earth is more spiritual, that's more 5D, you can't really see it. This is the timeline that you are primarily on, but again, you're connected to earth. So because you cannot really see it, you can see the 3D earth and what's going on around you. And that's why you cannot go off of and pay attention to what is going on in the earth timeline. That is still playing out. And again, they're always working together. So that's what you might see, but that's not what your timeline is. And this new earth timeline, again, with a new sun, is also new. It just works a little bit different. And you are primarily on this one, or primarily on this one. That's why you have consistently been told not to go back to your old ways. A lot of times during these shifts, something will try to come in and pull you back, because when there's going to be a timeline shift, some of this happens organically and subconsciously, that everything kind of starts vibrating, and because it's getting ready to fall away. It happens naturally. Yes, people can come in and try to take you off your path, whether they're doing it intentionally or not. It's just that it's kind of a match before that old timeline collapses. Sometimes it is very intentional. So there's a reason why the Native Americans that I've always known of do not go outside during eclipses. I have a lot of friends who won't even text during eclipses. There's really good reason for that. However, I want to mention that sometimes during these timeline shifts, particularly eclipses, there will be people also who will come into your life sometimes that are gearing you towards your destiny, towards where you want to go. So that's where your state of mind is as that switch happens. So it is up to each individual, of course, to use discernment on if you are being called back into something familiar in the past, or if this is something for the destiny. And even if it is in the direction you want to go, if that is for you, you still need to have discernment. These choice points are very big. And again, we are approaching one here in April.